Few people know when they should keep quiet. Fewer know how to speak without opening their hearts and minds to whoever is before them. In over 35 years among the underworld of smuggling, it became essential to understand both business partners and competitors. For in that dark world, failure would mean more than a financial loss. It could mean arrest, imprisonment, or sometimes death. The start position is that those you might work with and those who work with you plan from the outset to deceive, to carve themselves a greater share in secret, or to expose you to danger to spare themselves. And it is best to include partners and friends at the starting block. Doverai no proborai, they say in Russia. Trust but verify. But often verification is difficult, or doing so might reveal your own distrust of them. And that can tip many into acting first. Don't push at that door. Your best opportunity is usually your first meeting. They don't know your manner, your style. They can't decode you unless you give them something to read. And don't wear a poker face. That's a tell in itself. Try, friendly, yet slightly bored. Firstly, there should be no meeting before word has gone out that you are someone with connections and skills beyond those they have, that they might want from you. They want some kind of partnership, of course. Clear your mind of anything you want to promote. Have nothing to sell. Have nothing you want. In the first meeting, speak of food, comfort, travel, amusing things you've noticed. Be selective in your silent moments and allow them to step in. Be soft and pleasant, like a prosecutor laying traps. What kind of hotels do you like, you might ask? Don't offer multiple choice answers in your questions. They will simply select one, often to impress. Do not ask, boutique hotels. Don't suggest uptown or top reviewed. Let them draw from their memories or choices. Watching someone recall from memory will give you some immediate training in their ways. And don't seem to hang on their responses. Make it seem that you have little interest in their answers. You don't want to seem like you are leading a cross-examination after all. You are relaxed, thinking aloud. Don't ask too many questions, but make sure you open a new door with each question you do ask. Like, how did you come to like Cambodian food? Almost demands a travel story. Or use an indirectly direct question, such as, what's the most ridiculous answer you have ever given an official? Well, where that leaves him is stumbling around asking himself what he thinks you'd like to hear. Something that sounds truthful? A funny story that is true? What you will see is a person who has put his own personality aside for the show he's pretending. And should it happen that you ever get asked that ridiculous answer question, then give an answer from experience. If you can't remember a story, just say, all my answers to officials are ridiculous. And I suppose the advice on what to say to policemen, inspectors, and forensic accountants deserves a video of its own. But in brief, basically say nothing. So, where is this meeting taking place? That's something you need to control. A former business friend I know does his best to meet newcomers to his world in their own homes. He likes to see signs of family and commitment. I must admit to soaking up the signs myself when meeting someone new at his or her house or apartment. Photos framed or on a picture board. Watch out for those poster-sized montages. It's a bad sign. The inside of the refrigerator says a lot about care, control, and future planning. State of the laundry, cleaning equipment, and cobwebs. But you can see this is not telling you as much as you'd hoped. My friend simply judged how much permanence and local attachment the guy has. A pile of unmatched socks won't tell you if your new friend will spill his guts in a police station. Or maybe striped socks. Nothing there. Of course, if you choose a restaurant, make sure it's a late lunch, not too crowded or noisy. You have to hear clearly, but as well, better a place where you are not a regular. Public parks are good, and those that edge cemeteries, well, they come with talking points, do they not? Never hotel rooms. Hotel rooms are for sleeping. Any other activity usually leads to misfortune. If you're in the subordinate position in an office setting, there are two frequent scenes. Is it more than two people with the boss scheduling you in? You're there only to demonstrate the other's power. Or if it's a one-on-one and you're still the supplicant, look for the second string to be called in. The eye contact between the chief and his executioner will say it all. Rise or fall. Now, what is it you are looking for when decoding your new acquaintance? Signs of nervousness? An early jump start on a pitch he makes? Certainly, if you're in the lead position, funding whatever might be up for discussion, then naturally your potential associate will want to show he is worthy. You will hear success stories. You will hear recollections of the skills, your lunch companion. More noteworthy would be to hear of some adventure that did not turn out well. You won't often get that, and it's a favourable point. As I've said before, you should not be going about promiscuously, meeting people as though you're short of a friend. You're not. You will have sorted them by now, I hope. Meeting someone new happens only when you are recruiting a skill or a connection. Or maybe for a laugh, but bringing new people into your life is, well, a high price to pay for a giggle. Right. Where's the decoding happening? It happened the moment you walked in and took in an eyeful of your new friend. The first and major reading happens wordlessly, automatically. It's the look of them. You pick them out. Amongst the dozen people at Cafe Nero or wherever it was. You could see someone waiting because you stopped by the door and scanned the room. Walking to the table, halting again at 4 feet, you asked, "Frank, is it?" Frank turned, gripped the table with one hand and, hesitatingly, stood, bringing his hands together before extending a paw. Where has he positioned himself? Defensively at the side, front near window with an eye on the street, so he wouldn't miss the scene, the arrival? And yet he did. You made sure of that. If the face looks like, well, this, then the only job you might think of giving him is a one-off gig wearing belt and braces, if you catch my drift. Pink mist generator, but no one would consider such a thing. Yet plain vanilla losers aren't necessarily bad people. They often just have very limited options. Most books can be judged by the cover. Not that kind. The cover's as good as that one gets. You know, William Dafoe has a bad guy face, but he's an actor. They can be anyone the role demands. Do you think, though, that deep inside he has a ruthless, violent streak? Perhaps we all do. Losers do not necessarily rat you out, by the way, and your instinctive judgement, by appearance, are learned, so experience counts for a lot. But I don't think you need more experience than the childhood playground to know enough to cross the street on sight in these cases. But let's not sidetrack here. Judgment on body movements and faces are automated. There's no sliding around that, but it's far from absolute. Back to your new friend. And I have to say there are deep biological reasons why the look of something dictates its use and inclination. And why can we store 1,000 new faces with differences no greater than a wall of house bricks whose distinctions we will not save? That's a fascinating subject, and we must check it out sometime. Right. Where to beyond first impressions? Ask yourself, what is he doing in consideration of you? If you see he's putting on a mask, putting up a defensive shield, then of course that's bad. Looking around to see who's watching, asking what he will get out of it. I promised you 10 minutes work, so here's a time saver. You want your new associate to be a better version of yourself, because as you want a favourable outcome, a mutually profitable and enjoyable conclusion to any joint enterprise. If you're taking the lion's share, it's because you did the work, set the plan, did the research, refined the technique. You can't have some fool whose ambitions seek shortcuts and advantages. If you were he, you'd be interested in the game plan. The B plans come last. You're not fussed if the trick had never been done before. You'd not demand seat A1 so you can jump ship. If someone speaks of skills, ask for a description of the last time that skill was used. The proof will be in the realism of that description. Be wary of anyone who wants to start tomorrow. Most scoundrels are very short of time. You can still smell the smoking embers of the bridges they've burned. You don't want to hear a word about the people he knows, the connections he has. If they were any good, he'd be protecting them from the spotlight. Keep in mind, what you have before you is all you've got, all you're going to get. Your only job here is to mix in the behaviour of the meeting to calculate his probable actions while on the job. Forget the words. Mostly the word engine of our brains is a threadbare attempt at social acceptance and hierarchy. It is unlikely you'll come away enriched. Turn the sound down and watch. Is this a giver or a taker? Not just, did he pay for the coffee or pocket the teaspoons? Is he capable of understanding instructions well enough to follow them? And ultimately, do you need him? There was a time, when it mattered, that I would give new people a phone, a kind of burner, rather than have them use their own to call me. Give it a good charge before you turn it on, I would advise. Those phones were rather slow burners, in fact. They looked off, but were always on, recording from the moment they left for over 48 hours. I'd download the compressed audio the next day. It usually made for sad listening, as most recruits spilled all to sweethearts and enemies alike. "Things are going to change, darling," they'd say. "You won't recognize me in a month's time." and consequently there were times when it was necessary to make that prediction a visceral reality. Truly, he who keeps his expectations low shall rarely be disappointed.